Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kostuba. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York, Kostuba Das. Welcome to the show, everybody. Welcome to Sleepin' Saturday, Q&A Day. If you're new to the show, if you're listening to this on Facebook, welcome. This is our daily yoga philosophy. We do this every day. You can find us, we're not generally on Facebook, just for the weekends, but you can find us wherever you get podcasts or YouTube. Here live with Miss Mara spinning the dials and a group. We're having the last Seva retreat of the year. It's the last retreat of the year. So
You're not going to get them up there when the snow falls. Get a little.
Well, I got news for you. There's a special blessed cursing about Seva weekends.
Okay.
Whenever there's a Seva weekend, it takes a part of their heart to say, you know what, I just want to do some Seva. And then Krishna's like, oh, do you? Because I'm going to make the most inclement weather you can ever believe in. So today we're supposed to be planting bulbs and, doing garden stuff and digging out a garden bed, and it's pouring rain out here. So Krishna's testing people's sincerity. That's what's going on right now. Do you want to serve? Okay, because this is how you serve. Anyway.
I see you got your cool dead prez tattoo.
Well, that's my man. That's my man, Dustin, a.k.a. Bima from Dead.
I haven't seen Dustin in such
Lounge.
a long time. I miss Dustin.
He came to Kirtan this summer with his family. They're beautiful. And he did my tattoo on my hands. So anyway, this is what's going on. And it's Q&A day. We got some live Q&A with some classic people here. And some people I've never met in person that I only see on Zoom every day, like David Houseworth. He's got a question, too. But before we go there, Miss Mara, do you have any announcements?
I do. We have Bhakti Recovery Group meetings at 9:30 a.m., 11, and 12:30 Eastern Time. Nityananda Chandra Shloka Memorization Group is at 10 a.m. And tomorrow, via the Bhakti Center, is the Urban Devi meeting at 11 a.m.
So you tune into, you go to bhakticenter.org.
Yep, and then go to the online.
That's for the ladies. That's for the ladies. Do you know the subject?
I can pull it up if you'll just give me a minute. Do you want to say something about tomorrow's show with?
Also tomorrow we have the exceptional Yogi Charu. Yogi Charu is our old friend. He grew up in Belize, but he's a real yogi. He's gone up to the Himalayas and lived with the yogis up there. He's done his studies. He's a very deep person, and he's coming out with a brand new book. It's out, and it's called Mental Hygiene, like a practical guide to mental hygiene. And we'll be talking about that book. That's tomorrow at 8 a.m. Eastern Time on Wisdom of the Sages. And then I think Monday is a day off, right?
Yeah, Monday we're going to take the day off.
What are you guys up to? What's going on?
Secret stuff.
Airport run?
Airport run. The topic for the Urban Devi is transforming and transcending everyday trauma.
Ooh. It's about trans. That is the topic. And that should bring in a lot of listeners.
What?
Trans issues.
It's trans. It's about trans rights. That's what it's about, sir. Okay. And I just want to shout it out. If you didn't hear about it, we're having our Wisdom of the Sages retreat in India. It goes for just under 2 weeks at the Govardhan Eco Village. It ends up with the Flower Festival. So if you want to come to that, that is on our website, wisdomofthesages.com. And before that, come January 3rd, because right before that, for about 12 days, is our Kirtan Academy.
Kirtan Academy.
And so that's exciting for those who are getting called. Like, I need more kirtan in my life. As yoga teachers, people like to do it, or people want to learn how to step into leading kirtans, or people just want kirtan for their personal meditation. You can do that. And of course, me, Bobby Marchand, Kostuba, Cindy Lunsford, we're doing our 300-hour yoga training too. That's all happening simultaneously, practically. Go to our website, gives you all the info, wisdomofthesages.com.
You can either do the whole 300-hour teacher training, or you could do the kirtan training and then the wisdom training.
Yeah.
Or you could do one of those two, the wisdom, because those two go on along parallel to the 300-hour.
Exactly. Yet we all meet together twice a day, in the morning and the evening, with satsang.
And that always happens.
It's a sweet program.
Everybody.
And Radha Swami is going to be there a lot this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be doing regular talks, because I think they're going to be filming him giving these talks as part of like an online course. And so that means he's going to be speaking regularly, I think, if I understand correctly.
It's okay. He's going to be there. He gives talks. But let's carry on, my wayward son.
Right.
There'll be peace.
I'm not going to bite that. So
there'll be peace when you are done. Lay your weary head to rest. Okay, let's start with these questions. Let's bring down David Houseworth. What do you say, David Houseworth? Come on down. Look
at Gus. He looks like one of those polar bear rugs.
You think that would be? I'm not getting into it. David Houseworth, welcome to the show, brother. Thank you. Now, you know the secret. You got to talk right into this microphone. David's from Connecticut. Now, I don't know much about David. Can you tell? I see you on Zoom practically every day, and you're always doing something, some type of work in the background. What's going on? How did you get here? What makes you like Bhakti, and how did you get here? How about that? Come really close, talk. Put your face right on the mic. You don't have to look at me. You just look. I'll look at you through the camera.
Okay. I'll look at you through the camera as well.
Get even closer.
Connect that way.
So yeah, it's connecting through AI. So I got connected through Bhakti from you with Shelter.
Cool.
Yeah. So
core.
So oddly enough, when I was a young kid, I used to play air guitar to Shelter songs, and
I did too.
Yeah. So and then from there, I met you one time in 1996 outside the Tune-In in New Haven.
I remember that show.
Great show. And I was too blind at the time to understand what you were talking about. And it took a little while for me to come back to the Bhakti path. My sister, Heather, is a huge influence on me when I was going through substance abuse. And
a positive influence, you mean?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
100%. So one day she's like, I was listening to Rituals podcast. Have you ever heard of Raghunath Campo? And I was like, yeah, a little bit. So I listened to the Ritual podcast. You made a statement about a God-shaped hole at that point, which is a statement that really transcended with me. And then Kostuba, I started going back through back catalogs of stuff. And Kostuba said, yoga is a practice which empowers one to overcome the obstacle of the mind for the purpose of the self, experience its own true nature. So that statement,
that's the basis of the book that I'm working on right now. It's all built off of that.
So that statement let me know that this path is a path that can help me overcome the hell that's inside my mind. And just the Maya that I go through every single day. So I'm sorry, it's really overwhelming to be here right now, because I can't tell you how the three of you, Mara especially, saved my life.
Man.
Thank you
it's great
for
to have you
everything
here,
all of you do every single day.
Thank you.
Thank you, Boo.
I love you guys. So I digress, and I'll stay on course, Kostuba, so I don't spoil like Raghunath.
No, I appreciate you sharing that. That was touching. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So my question is, it's actually kind of a twofold question. Last night and over the week, my wife and I were going kind of back and forth over me coming up here and the purpose of it for me and where I was coming from with it. She has a lot of anxiety about it, thinking that I'm going to find someone else that's going to match our hearts differently, which is not going to happen. My wife is my soulmate, and I'm here to be a better person for her and for myself. So how do I comfort someone's anxiety when they're unsure of how the Bhakti community works, how Seva helps individual souls, and how doing service is ultimately for a Krishna path?
Ooh, I like this. I like this.
Good question.
Very good question. Can I take a stab at this first?
No, actually, I would like to go first. Sorry.
Thank you again.
Thank you,
Thank
David. Sweet guy, huh?
you. Yes.
You got any kids, David?
I do. I have an 18-year-old.
One 18-year-old. Wow. Okay, I thought you were.
I
thought
thought
you
he
were
said he
18.
had 8 kids. I was like, whoa.
He's 48. Okay. Kostuba. Here's
No,
a good
I was kidding. You go ahead.
Here's a good for anybody who's suffering from a spouse who's got anxiety or suspicion or just fear, like you're gonna fool around with somebody else and leave the relationship. Don't give them, of course you can't fix people, but we have some responsibility in relationships. And the best advice I can give is don't be a flirt. Now, I'm not saying you are, but it's going to exacerbate their suspicion and which gives a person deep rooted anxiety. And like I said, you can't necessarily extinguish it in the other person. But if you're a person who's not like loose with the way you talk to the opposite sex or same sex, if you're gay, then it will like pacify them. It'll pacify them in so many ways. So we have some responsibility in our behavior. And at the same time, and we have to be careful, because even in the 12-step program, they have this, what do they call it? 13th stepping somebody, is where you're sort of like someone's your sponsor, or you're like in a meeting with somebody new and you actually make a romantic advance on them. And you're not healing each other. What's happening is you're both getting further and further into your Maya. So we got to make sure that in the name of spiritual pursuits, we don't break basic human dharma. And I think that's like an important thing, because so many times I've seen people say, by the way, I don't think this has anything to do with you. You sound like a very fixed person in your recovery, in the same way I shouldn't get jealous if Mara goes to a doctor that's a man. The doctor says, take off your clothes. I shouldn't be like, what's going on here, doctor? That's part of what doctors do. So part of a recovery group is you go and you go there with a bunch of people. At the same time, oh man, I lost my train of thought on that little take off your clothes thing. Shoot. I had
13th
a good
step,
13th step in, going after somebody. Don't give a person a chance to have anxiety. Oh, okay. I've seen people who said, my wife is not spiritual or my husband's not spiritual. I'm going to leave them and I'm going to either become a brahmachari or I'm going to find a more spiritual person. I got news for you. You can both be chanting 16 rounds of japa, both going to the temple regularly, both have the same guru, and you can still screw up your life with a couple bad choices. So don't make those bad choices. Like, we purify ourselves through dharma, through association. Don't let the church, synagogue, ashram, community, etc. be your Maya. Let it be your, it's time to step up higher when you come into the sacred circle. That's what I have to say. I don't think you're there. I think you're actually here within this community because you actually want to improve the quality of your life. So give your wife some extra love. And I think just by saying, I'm not here for that, I'm here with you, etc., I think that helps a person's anxiety. Kostuba, what do you think?
First thing that came to my mind was something that we've done in the past at the Bhakti Center, which for the most part, like the temples that you and I have grown up in, I never really saw them do so much of this kind of thing. But in the summers, we used to have community picnics. All right. It was a
You didn't do that in the old days.
no, and the thing was, it was really all about just it was healthy for like the staff of the Bhakti Center and to come together with the congregation of the Bhakti Center and meet in a very relaxed setting, where there was no particular program going on except just getting together, sharing prasad with one another, spending time with one another in a beautiful park by the river. And there's even some little frisbee going around and things like that, but really it was just a chance just to relax with each other. And one beyond the kind of just good of dealing, like staffs and stuff, they need to kind of step out of the normal setting and relate to each other in other ways if they're going to not drive each other crazy. And so it was healthy on that level. But another role that it really played was there are so many people that would come to the Bhakti Center that would have either a spouse or a boyfriend or girlfriend that really knew nothing about Bhakti. And naturally, what David is speaking about is just a common occurrence. Like they get worried. Because you start getting into Bhakti, it's kind of like it's changing your life. You have this very deep faith in something that you didn't before. Some of your beliefs are shifting. Certain values are kind of rising to the top of your in your awareness and so on, and it can be like, am I still with the same person here? What's going on? So those picnics were a great place because you're going from weeks, months to this place, or they're going back to that place.
You're going to that
They're
secret
getting
place
more
again
into
to
it.
chant those mantras
Back
and
to that place.
secret.
But to be able to take those kind of people to the park and just hang out. Oh, these are the people you hang out with? These are normal people. These are nice people. This is a nice community. That opportunity was a game changer for a lot of people, I think. And so it might help. I'm not saying that this would definitely help, but it might help if David could find that kind of, I think Super Soul might be that kind of thing.
Bring her to Super Soul.
Maybe not put her to work in the rain or anything like that.
Put her to work. Meryl will whack her with a pillow. It'll be great.
But and I think we should do more of those with the Bhakti Center. I think Bhakti Center and Wisdom of the Sages should combine to do those things a few times in the summer. Sure. And so that might be one way. Another way is there's another thing I learned from Radhanath Swami. He said in the Kali Yuga, communication is just so difficult. It all just breaks down, and the nature is that when the communication isn't really clear, then people tend to become fearful, paranoid, suspicious, like that. So his point was like, he was speaking to the leaders of the Bhakti Center and saying, you not only have to communicate well with your staff and with the congregation, he said, you have to go overboard to really make sure you're communicating. And the analogy that he used was like an operating room in a hospital. He said, one tiny little germ can grow into a fatal disease. So when they clean the operating room, it's not like they just kind of like clean it like on some normal standard. They sanitize that place like crazy, with that realization, one tiny little thing. And so he was saying it's like that with communication in the Kali Yuga. You really have to take the time. You really have to put in the effort to communicate well with people. And so I think this is, this might be, you might want to take that into account with your wife to take extra. Don't just think, well, I said this and now she should accept it, but say it again and say it regularly and demonstrate your commitment to her repeatedly. So, and be open. A lot of times we have trouble communicating with each other. Come forward and say, sometimes I feel like you're worried and I want to hear about that. And I want to put your worries to rest, because I know that deep within my heart, I'm not going anywhere. I'm here with you for the long haul. So let's talk about this. I opening up that communication very honestly and not shying away from it, not feeling it's awkward or something like that. That's real important. You may be doing that. So those are, I don't know, those are the things that come to my mind initially. I like the way that you said, I'm doing this to be a better person. I want to be a better person for you. that kind of message is important to be heard.
I think his wife would have liked 1.0 Krishna consciousness. We play frisbee, but you can't play with girls. No girls at the picnic allowed. I would have loved having a frisbee thrown around Kostuba in the old days.
Well,
We're gonna have to reinvent. The Bhakti communities here.
you can do it.
That's why we got the volleyball here at Super Soul.
Yeah, a little volleyball
to bring out the competitive spirit of Kostuba Das. All right, thank you, David.
I hope that was helpful.
Soul. I think that was a good answer. I think it was a good answer, and something like this, I think, is a soft entry for, instead of bringing your wife to a temple, which can freak people out sometimes. You bring them here. It's like our home. We do programs here. Everybody likes kirtan. Everybody likes prasad. It'll take that threat away. So she's welcome. Okay.
Picnics,
All right.
Raghunath. I want you involved in them. I want you taking part next summer.
No girls though at the picnics.
Don't
Mara
be
forbids
like
me to play frisbee with women.
Don't be
Okay.
like
Manish G. Right? Did you have a question? No, Manish. No, I made a mistake. Where's our questions here? Catherine A. Come here. Come on down.
Catherine has a question.
Catherine has a good question.
All right.
She shaved a T-lock into the back of her head. Pretty cool. Yeah. Welcome, Catherine. Catherine A is our Savite here at the farm.
She looks like the cold plunge goddess. She's a goddess from Iceland, cold plunge goddess.
That's a nice way to put it. I was going to say a 1967 cult member, but I think yes.
Cold plunge cult.
Cold plunge cult. She's been cold plunging in the pond, right? Breaking ice and going in.
Is it iced over?
Yeah, I had to break through. So it was like kind of thin. Wasn't too.
That is hardcore.
Just enough.
Like a sledgehammer for later. It's really cold.
Kostuba's Vata red flag goes up.
Yeah.
Okay. What's your question? You had a good question today.
Hare Krishna, my humble obeisances. Why is religion the source of all wars?
Loaded question there.
Right. Well, it's an important question because there's wars going on right now, and it seems like it's Muslims versus the Jews. What is going on? But it's not the first time this is going on. We have a doctrine; they have a doctrine. Let's let them let's teach them our doctrine. These guys are infidels. We have some dirty name for whatever the other team is, and they have a dirty name for us. How would you answer that? People a lot of times say that, I'm not into religion. Religion is the cause of all wars. How do you answer that, Kostuba?
Not that I think this is the part of the question to dwell on, but not all wars are caused by religion. There's been wars over all kind of things.
Exactly. I think that's a great answer right there.
Okay, but a lot of times they have to do with economic issue. We may be of two different religions, but it's really your oil that we're after. It's really your wealth that we're after. It's really your military strategic position that we're after, or so many other things. So it's not a fact that religion is the cause of all wars, and we could do some research and get statistics on that. But certainly we see religion mixed in and being the cause of so much conflict and so much war, or playing a role in so much conflict and so much war. Now, I'll say this, that's why it's so important. That's why I feel the Srimad Bhagavatam is so important. Because what the whole idea behind the Srimad Bhagavatam is, it's saying, let's filter out everything that's essential. Let's get right down to the core of it, and let's understand that divine love is the purpose. It's the purpose of life. It's the purpose of religion. It's the purpose of yoga. It's the purpose of dharma. It's all of these things are meant to get one to that point. And if we look at the different world religions, we'll see that people in all the different world religions, or all the different spiritual traditions, they're all coming with different ideas, different motives, or I could say it this way: the same motives, same set of motives are there in all the different religious or spiritual traditions. Some people come to their religion for the purpose of enjoying the things of this world. They want from God these things. And if we're coming that way, we're very likely to hold an attitude that sees, well, let's even put it this way. Let's look at another construct within our philosophy, or in our practice, which says that there's 3 levels of spiritualists. One of them, they see God only in their temple, only in their church, right? They have trouble seeing God in the hearts of the other people that go to their church or temple, and they have trouble seeing, what to speak of seeing God in the hearts of others. That's called the beginner's level of religious or spiritual thought or realization. If everyone stays on that level, then we feel we're the ones that are right and everybody else is wrong. If you come up to at least to the middle level, that's the platform for greater peace, right? That whether someone's in my religion or another religion, I'm really looking to see how pure their motive is, and that's what I really respect. And it may be that you're in another religion than me, but actually the way that you come to God without any material desire in your heart, that's what I'm aiming for. And I see people in your tradition that have it. When we really understand that, then we begin to transcend the kind of the external causes of conflict that are there, right? And what to speak of the highest level of realization. If we have it fixed in our minds that when I get to that highest level of realization, all of these externals become practically meaningless for me. It's this kind of thinking that I also believe that it's very clearly laid out in our tradition. I believe it exists in all those traditions. There are thinkers that kind of get this in all of those traditions. We have to be the generation of people that begins to lift this type of spirituality, this type of spiritual knowledge, recognizing that within every body there's sacred life. The spark of life, whether it's in a person in this religion or that religion, whether they're from this country or that country, this race or that race, that spark is God's energy, an individual spark of God's energy, whether it's in even different species. We need to honor that. The more, if we become the generation of people that brings that spiritual knowledge to the forefront, then there's hope of breaking all this down. And if not, then it really doesn't matter. Religion can become just the best excuse for self-righteousness. And if we have self-righteousness and inner hatred, religion is a great vehicle for feeling superior to others and being the cause of conflict. So we need to be the people that kind of bring out this higher understanding. It's there in Bhagavatam, it's there in Bhagavad Gita. We can make it happen.
Yeah, it's why I fell in love with the Bhagavatam and Sanatana Dharma. The whole idea of like, let's get to the essence of this. Everybody is a spirit soul. Religions are different ways to try to understand God, and we're all connected. There's one God. No one's got a monopoly on God. It's simple. So, in a very abbreviated answer, I'd say it's the ego that's actually starting the war, not the religion. And if you get rid of religion, do you think war will stop? No. People will find a new reason to bolster their ego. It could be on their race or their gender or their what else? They'll figure out another way to throw the ego in there. Yeah, their nation, their land, their habits, the way they dress, and they'll demonize the enemy as lower subhumans, etc. So yeah, ego is the thing that's there, and it can really be used. There's a lot of like scripture to back up your ego, in books of the world. So we have to break it down to what these essential things are teaching is. All these things are changeable except that we're spirit.
I just pulled this up. I could have just Googled it for whatever it's worth. According to the Encyclopedia of Wars, out of all 1,763 known recorded historical conflicts, 121 or 6.87 had religion as the primary cause.
Bad.
Matthew White's The Great Book of Horrible Things. Sounds like an interesting read.
Yeah, that sounds like a great read.
Gives religion as the primary cause of 11 of the world's 100 deadliest atrocities. So, I mean, it's definitely a contributor, but to say it's the cause of all wars, which you commonly do hear that kind of thing. I think that's it's not well researched. That's all. All right.
Alrighty.
Hope that's
Thank you,
helpful.
Catherine A.
Thank you, Catherine A.
Oh, Crystal is a good question. Come on down, Crystal. Crystal. We call her Captain Crystal around here. She's a captain.
Because
in
she
the
was a
US Army.
captain in the Army?
US Army,
She's a West Point grad, right?
Yeah. Come closer to the, and she's she's been a regular Savite here at the farm for a long time. She's from Michigan. We got a bunch of people from Michigan listening to the show too. And you got to put your mouth right here. Have you been on the podcast before? Oh, well, tell us your story, how you got here, etc. And why are you here now?
She's like, the story?
Just make it brief. Yeah, just make it brief, like what inspired you? How did you listen to Wisdom of the Sages?
Oh, I discovered that you were starting the podcast.
Maybe just lift the mic and bring it up.
Oh yeah, that might be easier. Put it right in your mouth.
I first came across Bhakti Yoga when you were talking about it on your podcast on Joe Rogan, and started listening back then when you went on there. And then it just kind of made the world make more sense as I listened to the podcast, and I really love the ideas behind Bhakti Yoga, the wisdom literature. Like, I would love to read all of it and have all the knowledge, but
were you in the service at the time?
No, I got out about 10 years ago.
Okay, so you've been out for a while.
Yeah,
it's a good way to frame out the world, Bhakti Yoga.
Yeah, it really makes the world make sense.
It makes the world make much more sense.
Bhakti makes the world make sense.
Yeah, that could be the new Bhakti tagline.
Okay.
All right, so Crystal, what's your question today?
So my question is, I love helping people. I love doing things for other people. Sometimes I neglect my own self because I just love doing stuff for other people the most. So my question is, how do you balance a desire for seva with, like, how do you draw the line when someone is starting to like take advantage of it and it starts to feel not nice anymore? So I don't know exactly if that's a good question, but kind of understand.
That's a good question.
It's a very important question. Go ahead, Costu. You want to start? You want me to start? I can start.
Either way is okay with me. If you feel inspired, you can go ahead. Otherwise, I will.
Go ahead.
You tell me.
All right, I'll start.
Okay.
You got to be careful who you serve. You got to be careful who you serve. It is great to serve. You got to make sure that the person you're serving also has their head on straight, and they're not using it to manipulate or control, etc. The idea of service is very foreign to a lot of people. We don't like the concept of like, I'm a servant. Matter of fact, in this circle that we're part of, this Bhakti circle, we call each other Prabhu, which means master. Like, to have somebody as your master, and I'm like the slavish servant, it's horrible. But actually, it's quite wonderful. We get a lot of joy from serving the devotees. It's one of the things that Radha Swami taught me in Kastuba is like the most important service you can do when people are coming to the temple, making them feel very welcome. That's like such an important guest services at the Chowpatty temple is such a high priority for making a person feel welcome. We try to mimic that at the farm. I hope you guys are feeling welcome. Make people feel welcome here. And it's such a great, first of all, it's such a great.
I thought you were going to say, first of all, welcome. I don't know if I said welcome.
I didn't say welcome yet. It's just a great skill to like, hey, what do you need? What can I get you? Are you comfortable? First of all, it endears people to you, but we're not doing it for that. We're doing it because we're seeing, oh, this person's a spirit soul on a spiritual journey. How can I help them along their journey? And in that process, it helps me. I get out of my own head. I connect with God by taking everything that's been given to me and giving back to somebody else. It's very, very powerful. And so how do you keep people? So you got to be careful who you serve. That doesn't mean we shouldn't serve. And I need to put a boundary around all these people. Find good people to serve in your life and serve them. That's what I would say.
All right.
What do you think?
Sorry for that cue. uh,
Cuba.
first of all, I want to say that your realization, like my happiness is found through service, that's a beautiful thing. That's like
Beautiful sentiment, huh?
It's a beautiful sentiment. It's a sign of one's evolution that they come to that realization, you know, and that they can articulate, that they can recognize it, articulate it. That's a great thing. And in general, I'm pretty much echoing what Raghunath said, but that our philosophy, our theology of bhakti, it's all about that by nature I serve, that I'm designed to serve, because by nature I love. I'm designed to love, and service is how love is expressed. Now, that being the case, then the wise person says, "Let me build my life around service." Some of us have jobs that really that fits kind of neatly with, you know, maybe I'm a nurse, maybe I'm an EMT, maybe I'm a fireman, maybe there's so many ways that you know, and other jobs seem less like that, you know. And but of course, whatever jobs one's doing, it can be dovetailed. This is how I serve my family, and I serve my family on behalf of God. So even this job that seems disconnected, if I conceive of it and I think of it as a service to others, it becomes a service to others. And meditating that way on it is purifying to the mind. But so it's a fact, we serve. That's our nature. That's what we're meant to do as bhakti yogis. But what Raghunath was saying was real important. But we should carefully choose how and who we want to serve. In one sense, we're the servants of everyone, and if we're walking down the street and someone needs a little help, we're happy to offer it. But in making our life a service, we can very carefully consider, who is it that I want to serve? You know, even like we can say, on this whole earth, think of organizing your life this way. On this whole earth, who would I like to serve? And then see if you can make that the center of your life. It is a kind of an exciting way to live in my mind. You mentioned that sometimes you might feel like you're being taken advantage of. That might not be the place where you want to invest. Really, you know, we can serve everyone, but where we really want to invest our heart in this service, right? Where we really want to invest our time, our energy, but really, you know, this service it's a really investment of a heart, of one's heart. We might say, okay, you know, even without bitterness, that the best use of my energy is not here where it's unappreciated. Let me carefully find where can I place this. It's almost like my life energy is God-given and it's precious. Let me carefully consider where I'm going to invest it. And life can really become very beautiful that way, you know. I once had this is something I've shared with some of my close friends. But I was once watching this television show, The West Wing, and which is about like the U.S. president and their staff. And the staff goes through so much together. They go through so many different struggles together and so on. And at the end, the president is about to leave his office, and he calls. There was like a certain event that evening in the White House, and then towards the end of the event, or as the event is still going on, everybody's tired, and he calls some of his inner staff. It was kind of like a very eventful time towards the end of his presidency, and he called like his inner staff that he had worked so hard and struggled so hard with. He called them up to his private quarters, and they were all kind of relaxing together and just talking and laughing and just sharing their hearts with each other. And I remember I was watching that, and I was thinking, they must have felt so privileged to be in that room. And then I thought to myself, and I said, you know, if there's anyone on this earth that I would really like to serve, I've actually had the opportunity to serve them, and even in a sense to be like called close like that. What a privilege it is. and it's something that I never want to step out of that room. In one sense, I feel like that opportunity to serve those special souls is really my greatest gift. So yeah, you've got a great heart, and you want to serve others, and now think real carefully of where you can invest that best. And I think you'll find it'll be a really it'll make your life very special too.
Such a nice quality, that desire to want to give some love to somebody.
Yeah.
But you can give love to, say, a criminal, and the person's committing all types of crime, and you're sort of supporting them, And then, of course,
Enabling
there's
them.
a whole spectrum where the person
Well,
gets
if we're
more.
talking about driving the getaway car, that kind of service may not be what we're aiming for.
But eventually, we want to take this up. Of course, whenever there's a sacrifice, it's less about me and my ego. But as we're starting to refine our bhakti, we want to serve great souls. By such service, great service is done. It gives us an attachment to hearing and chanting the holy name.
We even want to serve the servants of those great souls.
Service. I am the servant of the servant of the servant.
Yeah.
Of the gopis. Okay.
It's even better.
Thank you,
Thank
Crystal.
you,
That
Crystal.
was very helpful.
Thank you, Captain Crystal.
great.
Harry Bull.
Captain.
Wait, she's going to add something.
I just have a comment about the previous question about war.
Oh yeah.
I think the people who are willing to kill other people are so far in illusion that they don't know that we're all from the same place and connected, and we're really killing ourselves.
Ooh,
So
yes.
just wanted to add
That's
that.
a great point. Yeah, killing the very nature of ourselves.
Were you in the war? Were you in
I
a
was
war?
in Iraq twice and Afghanistan once.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Okay. So you've seen.
So this coming from
Yeah.
experience.
I had office jobs, so I was very safe,
Okay.
Oh.
relatively.
Relatively safe.
Compared to jobs that are actually dangerous. So
Well, there's some offices that can be really crazy.
yeah.
But thank you. All right. Who else we got, Miss Mara? What's on our list here? Oh,
I think
Steve
I bet.
Amari.
Awesome.
Steve Amari's
Steve
here.
Amari. Okay.
Steve Amari, he's everywhere, isn't he? This guy is everywhere.
Look at Steve
Vermont,
Collins. This
Boston.
is a smooth guy, Steve. I like
He's
Steve.
very- He's a retired postman and got into Wisdom of Sages. How? Come close. Hold the mic, Prabhu. Hold the
You
mic.
can pick up the mic.
You got to be right on that mic.
After the workshop in Boston, right before
A yoga workshop.
To this, it must have been a good workshop.
It was
Catherine, Steve, Martine, all came from this workshop.
Boston. What was it? That
Boston Yoga Union.
yeah.
You were on fire, Raghunath.
Sandy Clemmer.
Sandy Clemmer, right?
Man, we got a team
And
from that.
I think it was right after Joe Rogan, but I hadn't even listened to that.
That was
No,
but
because
it
that would've
was
been
before
COVID.
Joe Rogan.
Yeah,
Because
that would've
it
been
was
COVID
before
after.
Joe Rogan, because we were doing Super Soul Sacred Sangha in the lobby.
And so you had I'd gone up to you, just to speak with you, and you said, check out the podcast. And when they shut down everything, like within a couple of weeks, I was like, okay, let me check in, and I've been on there ever since.
You checked
And I
out
was
of the
like,
material world. Good for you.
checked out.
Keep that mic close. Keep that mic close.
That mic closer. It's not going to
Eat
pick
the
up.
mic.
Eat it.
There you go.
So Steve Amari,
Uh,
how are you? So he's a retired postman. He did
like 25 years.
25 years.
Yeah, on foot.
Nice.
Wow.
Walking
I love the fact that
in
people
the
are
city.
having like spiritual explosions at different these later ages too.
Are dogs really an issue out there?
They can be. I've been bit.
Okay.
Sure.
So, but I have no regrets for doing that. It was I mean, towards the end, it was, I had to let it go. I mean, it was time to move on. And
We had Raghunath and I had a friend in Vrindavan. He was an old man. He
Dadu?
grew up in
Dadu.
he was an old man who grew up in Calcutta. And towards the end of his life, he just left everything behind and went to Vrindavan. And he took a vow he'd never wear his shoes in the holy place, right? He was always barefoot, wrapped up
He was
in
an
a
old Calcutta Bengali gentleman.
real
He
gentleman.
wasn't really a friend. He
sweetheart.
was just like an old sweet man.
He was a friend. What are you talking about? He was
A
someone.
friend. I mean, he was
a friend of mine.
friends with him. I loved him. He wasn't my friend. Like say play basketball with him.
Well, there's different types of friends, Raghunath. Many varieties.
Okay, I wouldn't call him a friend. I'd say he was a beautiful old man who I looked up to. Okay, go on.
And his job in Vrindavan was to deliver the mail to all the devotees. So he'd get like a big stack, and he'd be walking around all day, like very carefully delivering that mail with great attention, and
great love. You might have to go back to your job, Prabhu. That's what we're saying here. Go back with a new head on your shoulders. Do it with a little bit more devotion.
He had all kind of words of wisdom to share as well.
He was very wise.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
So I had a question.
Yeah.
So
David Charles Wilson just showed up.
DC Dubs just showed up. The whole crew from Philly. It's Margot,
right.
Dan Murphy. What's going on?
Great. Okay. Go ahead, Steve.
So, how does one reach and share, teach to a wider audience the essence and the emphasis of bhakti, especially with all the distractions that we can encounter, and all the different forms of suffering that we can end up become more sensitive to. How is it, and does it not require a certain level of discernment? Because some as you had just described on the answer to the other question, I think it was either Crystal's question or about the different levels of receptivity in religion. How you have the righteous.
To Catherine's question, yeah.
Catherine's question, the righteous, and then the open-hearted, which they have a more of an expanded thinking or openness towards spirituality. So how are we able to do that without getting sort of caught up in the suffering and becoming like a martyr, without
coming like a what?
A martyr?
A martyr. Like, in other words, really getting so swept up into the suffering of the world, and yet still wanting to be able to share bhakti, and the essence and the emphasis of bhakti, which
martyr in that Boston accent is tough to pick up.
Martyr. Sounds like murder. How do you stop murdering people? There's a special 12-step group for that.
Do you want to start, Raghu?
Well, first, I'm not 100% pure of the question, so just stay by. But it sounds like sort of
let's try to get.
How do you preach? How do you preach but not get caught up in the doom and gloom of the material world? That's one way. Or by preaching to certain people, they can drag you into their world.
Yeah.
Or how do you keep it essential? How do you preach in a broad way that doesn't turn people off? That I was trying to figure out what that question was.
Is it that sometimes you try to share it with people and you just get like a lot of negativity coming back at you? Is that part of what you're saying?
Yes, and I've gotten clued in on that just with the people closest to me.
Your family members.
Yeah. And
you try to share bhakti with your family members, and sometimes they're just coming back with stuff that just you walk away saying, "What's going on?"
It
hurts.
Just becomes really, really foreign, and
bhakti is foreign to them, or they start feeling foreign to you.
Maybe both.
Both. Okay.
It's. I mean, and what it's done with me is it's caused me to do a lot of inner work, which is spurred on growth,
sure.
and clarity.
And you're never talking to your family again.
Yes.
That kind of clarity.
Well, Kasuba, this is something that we were forced to learn, because part of our mission was we were in an ashram, and the mission was to give this away to everybody. We were like proselytizers of bhakti. And when you do, like, you were out on the streets, I was in a band, and when we were in the band, it wasn't like everybody loved you. In the punk scene, a handful of people loved you. A lot of people wanted to kick your butt. A lot of people
on the streets
too.
Were
atheists, anarchists, and we were forced to explain to a multiple of people all day long. Now, sometimes a person would be like, it would be like, well, we believe that there is a soul in every body, even that bodies of cows and pigs. And they're like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. And some people will fight that tooth and nail. And some people will come up with arguments that you never thought about. I was like, and where you're sort of stumped. And because of that, it makes you go home and like sharpen all your tools. Like, yeah, what is the answer to that? And you go amongst other friends and say, somebody challenged me with this and I couldn't really explain it. And it makes you get sharper and sharper in how you deliver this message. Then you got to get to this point where you can deliver it to anybody, and where you're looking for the long-term win instead of like just winning a battle with somebody. So I feel like that's big, and I think it's healthy to explain this not just to your family, but everybody that you meet, because it's going to help you develop discernment and understanding this on a deep way. What I would never do is explain things above your realization. Just explain. Well, because sometimes there's such lofty philosophy that we can get into. Oh, then and then the avatars come, and the avatars take birth again, and they take birth as different animals, and then you're not my real spouse anyway, or we're not even related actually. Just talk about the basic things. It's important to control. It's important to be a spirit. I always say, speak in first person. I find it's important to minimize violence. I find it important to control your mind and senses. I find it's important to sit in some time in meditation on a regular basis. It helps me interact with the world better. I find it's important to become the best person I can be. Talk about what you really understand instead of the stuff, the parts of Bhakti that you don't quite understand yet. Stuff that you can really stand behind, and put yourself in first person instead of like a preacher man. This works for me. This works for me. So me and I've been working with my 9-year-old about explaining vegetarianism to people. And why are you a vegetarian? And his opening gambit is, I believe in minimizing violence in this world. Don't you think that's a good idea?
He's come a long way, because he used to have a punch of the day thing going on there.
Yeah, he still tries to pull the punch of the day out of me, but
he gives up to that philosophy of minimizing violence like once per day with each individual. He knows.
So I think Steve's been a victim of that punch of the day also. But the idea is that, so you have to, and from that, don't you think, and I throw the question back, I believe in minimizing violence. Don't you think that's a good idea? I think it's important to take care of our mental health. Don't you think that's a good idea? I think meditation helps with my mental health. What do you think? Do you think that would help with you? I find it helps me. I believe that I got to control my senses and my mind if in order I want peace in my life. Don't you think that's a good idea? Do you think that would work for you? Maybe you don't even have to preach it to them. You just have to talk about a process that you're going through that you can really stand behind. Does that help?
That helps.
Okay.
Sure it does.
Stu, do you want to add to that, sir?
You did a great job, Raghunath. I think you hit the two most important things. One is what you communicate. We shouldn't make the operation a success, but the patient died. Do that kind of communication,
Right.
like
I defeated them. I crushed them.
I shared what I had to share. We should be real careful about buzzwords. We should try to understand. Our goal shouldn't be to just share what we're into. Our goal should be to help them understand what we're into, and try not to go places that they can't understand, that they won't understand, that'll be challenging at this stage. So that can have to do, it can be buzzwords that just trigger people. It could be concepts that they're just not ready for. And I liked what Raghunath said, both things, above your realization or above their ability to understand. Think about the things that you want to share. There, in general, I find, and this is where I focus in a lot of the places I talk, people that listen to a lot of the stuff that I do, either on the show or in other forums, they'll find me speaking on 3 points a lot. These are in the Bhagavad Gita. These are simple. Even-mindedness under difficult changing circumstances. Samatvam, right? Seeing the soul in every living being. Recognize, this idea that what are you into? What are you getting into? Well, it's it's an ancient philosophy that these four sages, wrote down in these books thousands of years ago. And their idea was that we're not the body, but we're a spark of life within the body. And we're all made of that spark of spiritual energy. We never die. And that each spark is the energy of God. We're individuals with our own free will, but we are made of God's energy. And in a sense, we're all dear to God. If it's a religious person, you can speak like this too, And so the idea is we have minds, we have bodies, but underneath it, there's this spark of the soul. And that spark is just as pure in every living being. We may have warped minds and do even harmful things with them, with our minds and our bodies, but we try to honor every life. That's also, that has to do with my diet too. It's related to that. I'm not judging you, but I'm just saying this is why I operate the way I operate. So even-mindedness, seeing the spirit in every living being, samadarshana, equal vision, and the idea that this spark of spiritual energy, that it by nature, it's blissful, by nature, it's happy, that external things, the chase after external things for happiness is not really my goal. After hearing this kind of thing, it makes me think I want to go deeper into myself. It doesn't mean I'm just going away into a cocoon somewhere, but I want to become conscious of myself as separate from this body, underneath it all, and find happiness deep within. And I think this is, you're a guy from Boston, you can say, I think this is like the kind of thing that Henry David Thoreau was trying to do. I think great thinkers have kind of caught on. They were reading these books too. So I think that's it. To come that way is one thing. To come and say, I have faith in the blue boy Krishna, that he lifted up this hill, and worshiping him is what we're all meant to do. And
He did.
and those kind of things, your Boston family is going to be like, what? He's gone wicked mad.
He's like wicked mad.
So you got to think about what's going to make sense to them. You don't have to be dishonest, but if your person you're trying to share it with is a theologian with some, then you might want to talk on the theological level. Here's our theology, and here's why it makes sense. And then again, what Raghunath said is you can't go above your own realization. We can admit, there's nothing wrong with admitting, I've heard people speak on this subject and it's been so convincing, and I'm not yet able to articulate it so well myself. Like that's entirely honest, and that can be entirely honest and truthful. And sometimes that's the way we need to communicate. I'm developing an interest in this, and I can't quite articulate it as well as some of the people I've heard it from. But when I hear it from them, it's making a lot of sense to me. Like, you can even say things like that rather than go above your own level of realization and get lost in some kind of back and forth kind of muck that you really can't get. You walk away feeling like, oh man, what did I just get into?
Beautiful, Prabhu. Beautiful. Guess what?
We're out of time. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve Amari. Love having you around.
Speaking of muck, you got your team to get out there in the muck today.
We got a team. For Surrendered Souls. Thanks everybody for joining us. Thanks for live crew joining us. Thanks for the Zoom crew joining us. And thanks for those mysterious others out there listening. You want to join us, others? You want to join us here on Zoom? Email Mayor at wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com. Make sure you go to wisdomofthesages.com and check out all our offerings that were happening, including Italy, including India, including the Mayapur retreat. Also, I have a mailing list too, raghunath.yoga, raghunath.yoga. Then I announce all the stuff I'm doing. I send out little messages, etc., etc. Follow us on Instagram too, Wisdom of the Sages. You can find that, or Raghunath Yogi, or Kaustuba. What's your Instagram? Kaustuba.
That's it. Kaustubha.
That's it. Kaustuba, boss.
I got it.
All right, that's a good one. There's David Murray. What does he got there? A little Jagannath altar. Ah, that's adorable.